Hello Get Cultured crew, Mr. Brown here. What I'm going to show you and talk through with you today is your assessment task notification that you will, your screen will look something like this when you go into the Google Classroom post. So rather than me typing out a bunch of stuff here, I thought it'd be easy to make this video. So we'll start with the notification itself. So click on that and this should come up. And I'm just going to talk through the task requirements for you. So it's our first task. It's weighing 30% of your yearly mark. It's on our second topic, which is culture and mass media. The date you received it is today, and it's due 2 weeks from today, on the 20th of the 5th. Okay? What you have to do, your scenario. So this is kind of like the background information, if you like. So you're the anchorman / anchorwoman of the Get Cultured TV news channel. Not a bad name, hey. This is a contemporary media outlet for young people. So the idea is that you're sort of like news hosts of this hip new cultured TV channel. In groups of up to 4, so you can have groups of 2, 3, 4. If you desperately need a 5th, just email me and let me know. So in groups of 4 or individually, I want you to make a video and complete what I call a cultural media analysis via a news style presentation. Okay, so what is a cultural media analysis? We're going to get into that in a sec, but I think the idea is that you're sort of going to create like a mini news segment that goes for maybe 5 minutes or so about an issue with how the media represents different cultures, essentially. So what do I have to do? You are to complete a news story about a cultural misrepresentation of ethnicities within one aspect of media. So when you do that lesson that's due on Friday, you'll be able to see the sort of things I'm talking about. Briefly, I might even open it up now to show you what I mean. So I guess the idea is you want to kind of look at how the media is showing or representing different cultures and ethnicities, and whether or not it's essentially racist or not, or it's inappropriate or not. So if I go here, a lot of you have turned it in, which is good. I've just picked Max's just to show you. So the idea of what I want you to go through is looking at how the media influences our attitudes toward different cultures. So let's say, for example, you look at a music video, a rap music video. How do you think they're depicting black African Americans? Okay, from what I would see, there's lots of imagery of gangsters, swearing, guns, pistols. They're surrounded by, provocative women. They've got diamond teeth braces. All of that sort of thing can perpetuate a certain type of attitude that people have towards cultures. Okay, that might make certain people think that, all black people must act like that then, which we know is false. So that's sort of one example. We looked at another one here on the case study of Big Bang Theory, say with Raj, and how a lot of the jokes that they make in this form of media can be quite racist. Then we look to the media option of film, and we can look at how orcs and elves are represented in the media here. Orcs being depicted as dirty, uncivilized, and they're played by Maori people, whereas the elves were showed as intelligent, tall, handsome, pretty, and white. So if we look at the underlying message we're sending on how we view different cultures, that's an example. So you could look at a different movie, or you could really expand into that one. You could really expand into Raj, or you can pick a different TV show that you like. Another good suggestion I would make would be through music videos. That one I looked at. But yeah, that's sort of the idea. So make sure you do those slides. I'll go back to the thing now. So TV shows we looked at, say Big Bang Theory for example, you can find your own. Movies we looked at, music or music videos. Books, you might know a book that's depicting a certain ethnicity a certain way, and you might want to look at it. You could even look at the news. There's lots of, if you go on YouTube, there's lots of news stories where you can see them, particularly in America, not so much in Australia, but you can see how they're depicting African Americans in America, or people from Hispanic or Mexican descent. You could look at that. In social media, you might look at your Instagram page and see that there are certain Instagram page accounts that are depicting certain cultures in a certain way. Even if it's, say it's like a TikTok videos or an Instagram account, and let's say they're making jokes and humour about people's races. So let's say there's a TikTok I saw recently that was making fun of Asian people. So that could be something you could look at as well. You could look at how different social media platforms might misrepresent certain cultures. And then you can look at it through advertisements as well, if you could find any. So there's lots of different sort of options there. I guess the main thing is that you want to look at cultural misrepresentation of a certain ethnicity. Okay, so you'd pick a certain ethnicity, you would then pick a certain media that you want to look at, and you're going to highlight how it's essentially racist and inherently biased towards a certain point of view. So what should be in your news representation? These are sort of the key things you need to address in your video that you're going to make. So you need to obviously choose an issue and introduce that. You'll then need a description of your issue. What's the issue about? So in brackets here, I've sort of expanded on what I mean by that. So what's the issue about, and some background information and context of the issue. The third step is an exam. I might even turn these into numbers for you. That might make it easier. The third step is I want you to examine the issue from from all the different perspectives involved. So essentially, what are the different sides of the story? So let's say, for example, if we go back to that Lord of the Rings example, what are the different sides of the story? Do people realise that they're being racist? I know for a fact that there was some backlash of this, like the directors didn't agree with it, whereas a lot of the fans did. So you're just looking at both sides of the story there, trying to give a holistic point of view. Step 4, what I want you to do is evaluate the media's representation of the issue. So evaluate means to make a judgment. So you need to tell me, is it good or bad, and why not? Then for the 5th point, I want you to examine the potential problems associated with the media's representation of this issue. So let's say you look at the music video, for example. What are the issues with how they're depicting black African Americans in that video, and why could they be bad, and what sort of bad things could that lead to happening in real life? So that's the sort of thing I want you to look at there. And then lastly, in your news segment, I want you to provide some possible solutions that people could do to combat the media's representation of the issue. So in other words, how can we fix it? Are we able to educate people on how to analyse cultural misrepresentation in the media? That could be one thing. Some solutions could be simply not to make them at all. I want you to list a few there for that last part of your presentation. So that's sort of like the crux of what you have to do in the main points. If we scroll up to here, what I've got is the additional requirements. So here what I want you to do is just have a quick read through, and that's just going to tell you a bit more about the task. So you have to submit it by the due date on Google Classroom. What I want you to do is at the end of the video, or at the start, however you want to do it, can you make sure that the name of everyone involved in the group is on the credits of the video? So obviously I'm not going to expect every single person in the group to upload the same thing to Google Classroom. If someone, I don't care who, just one person in the group can upload it, and then just make sure everyone's name is in the credits of the video, and that way I know who's done what, and I also know who's in the group. This next bit's pretty important. If you do choose to work in a group, you have to make sure that you're not next to each other when filming. Unless, of course, you may be in a super unique situation like Max and Zane, as they're brothers and they're living together. That would obviously be okay. But anyone else, you just have to make sure that you're not breaking the current social distancing guidelines. They could change tomorrow. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is whatever those guidelines are, make sure you're sticking to them. So for example, your whole group isn't going to get together and film. You might have to create different segments at home based off a script, and then one person can edit it all together, and so it looks like you're in the same room, but secretly you're not. Do you know what I mean? So you can definitely film them separately and then edit the clips together. That's fine. So I didn't want to limit you guys have to do this individually. I still think you can do group work. You're just going to have to work around those social distancing guidelines and whatever the current medical advice is. Okay, so make sure you're on top of that. If you do have any questions about that and you're not sure what you can and can't do, you can always email me and I'll let you know. Okay, but at the moment, or at the time of filming this, you're only allowed one guest into your home. Okay, so obviously your whole group can't be together filming. You're still required to be 1.5 meters apart, washing your hands, all that kind of stuff. Here I've just said there are tools to assist you if you guys want data transfer of videos. Obviously an email won't be able to hold the file size, so you can use some cloud-based services such as your Google Drive. Maybe have a Google Drive for your whole group and just dump everything in there. That's probably the best way. Or you can use something like Dropbox, which has a similar function. But I think Google Drive would probably be the best idea. If someone creates a file, then you share it with everyone. You guys also have access to free Adobe video editing software through your student accounts. So you could just Google Adobe video editing software and then type in school account. Or if you have your own sort of apps that you know of, you can use like Movie Maker if you have an iPhone or a Mac at home. That's probably a really good program to use. Or you might find a free online one that you want to use instead, or a phone app. Whatever it is, they're just some options for you. What I would suggest, just some potential group roles. Obviously you don't have to follow this, but it's just an idea. Let's say you've got 4 people in your group. One person's sort of the anchor man, anchor woman. Another person's kind of like the reporter or journalist that they cut to in the news. Someone else could pretend to be an interviewee. Let's say, for example, in the Lord of the Rings example, you could pretend to be a film member that had to play an orc, and you talk about your experience, and then you might flick over to pretending to be the director and giving a different point of view and side of things, that kind of thing. And then maybe another person can be the film editor. Or you could blend all these roles. However you want to sort it, I would just suggest that you make the roles equal. Try play to each other's strengths. If someone's a really good actor and happy to perform, you can do that. And if someone's really good at script writing and they just write the whole script, that's fine. If someone's really good at filming, whatever you do, organise that amongst your group. And if anyone's sort of not pulling their weight, just email me and I'll have a chat to them. Or you can still work individually if you want. That's up to you. However you want to work it is fine. But again, I just have to stress, if you do want to work in a group, follow the guidelines very strictly about current coronavirus advice. Alright, and you've got your marking criteria here if you want to read through that, but I doubt, and you probably have better things to do. Essentially, if you knock out all of these things and you do a really good job of it, providing lots of detail and things like that, you'll do really well. Okay, this isn't, like I said, this subject is very different to anything else you've ever done, so I'm really looking forward to seeing some creative effort put in. Some humour would also be good if you can incorporate it. Not essential, but always welcome. And just the overall quality of the video and whether or not you're actually hitting the requirements of what I'm asking, which is essentially investigating cultural misrepresentation of ethnicities in the media. Okay. Last thing I'll leave you with is when you do get your notification and you read through that, because we're online, I can't actually get you to physically sign a copy. So what I've done is I've created a Google Forms. So you need to click that, just write your name, whether or not you can access it. If you can't, just write here and let me know, but I don't think anyone will have that issue. And if you can just complete that form and send it to me, and that's essentially you guys signing on for your assessment task. All right. If you have any more questions about that, please feel free to email me. My email's there, or we can have a Zoom chat if you want to. If you'd rather talk about it in person, you just email me a time that suits you, and we can go from there. All right. Stay cultured, folks. Thanks for listening.